Okay, if you'll please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Seminole County, Florida, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Verdict: we, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty. So say we all foreperson.
Does either side want to poll the jury?
We would, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as your juror number is being called, please answer whether this is your verdict.
Juror B 29, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror B 76, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror B 37, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror B 51, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror E 6, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror E 40, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ladies, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror could ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you an unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. Is there anything we need to take up before the jury before they're sent back to the jury room to be discharged?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ladies, thank you very much. You will be taken back to the jury room to be discharged.
We are talking live with Jerry Pippin here. We just had a verdict in from Stanford, Florida, which the jury there acquitted one George Zimmerman of the murder of Trayvon Martin. And we are giving this information as quick as we can, so just bear with us just a second here as we attempt to get a few other things going here. Just a minute here. We need to get Jerry's picture up here and some other things all at the same time. Okay, okay, very good. All right, Jerry, what's your reaction to this verdict while I do some things here out of view?
Actually, the verdict in one way is a surprise, but in many other ways it's not. And the first thing you think about is racism. And I'm sure race was a component in this. However, there are many other components as well. And I'm actually surprised that Zimmerman was acquitted of everything. The jury, just before they returned the not guilty verdict, was looking at manslaughter. And I would think that would be the charge that would be appropriate, if not second-degree murder. I mean, let's recap and look as objective as we can about what happened. Here is a black teenager walking in a neighborhood, minding his own business. Zimmerman, a member of the Neighborhood Watch program, was watching him and pulled up and got out of his vehicle and went over to Martin. Now, we don't know exactly why he was shot, but listening to the tape, you can tell that there was a scuffle, and but what caused the scuffle, we don't know. If you're walking, put yourself in Martin's position. You're walking down up to a neighborhood, a white neighborhood, not necessarily friendly to you to begin with, and then this man comes up, and suddenly, I don't know what he was doing. What do you think he was going to do with Martin?
I have no idea. I assume he was going to follow Martin, but I'm not really sure about that because he called the police in I guess what you'd call a situation whereby it was a non-quote-unquote emergency call, so therefore it's very, very difficult to say what he was doing or what he was not doing.
Right, and when you get down to it, was why didn't he just wait till the police arrived, keep watch on the guy so he can get away, and let the police do the interrogating? So the verdict, in many ways, defies logic. Is here's an unarmed man, and the other guy shoots him, and so we were faced with a situation here in this Florida law about concerning this to begin with. Seems to be pretty much out of the dark ages of the Old West. And when you start talking about the fact that you can, have vigilantes, really is what neighborhood watch programs end up being, it's really asking for danger, asking for trouble, and we got it this time around. Now, it would be something else if Zimmerman were more sympathetic. But for some of his behavior was downright belligerent to the authorities, and even in the courtroom he showed some belligerence, some disbelief that he was even being arrested, like he had the right to drive down the street and pick somebody out and shoot him. And that's exactly what happened. Now, I'd like to be objective about this as much as possible, but I'm not quite sure what the jury's thinking of when they acquitted him completely. The fact that the teenager was unarmed, and the recording, nobody could really identify the voices. Both families said it belonged to their part of the trial, and it's just one of those things that, as I sit here and following this case from long distance by the press reports, it just seemed to me that Zimmerman really didn't have a very good defense. But evidently, in that part of Florida, you don't need a very good defense. And I think here we go back to racism, but we also go back to something else, that's called fear. And people are fearful for their property to a point that these days that sometimes it's unreasonable to fear. And this is not the first time somebody who was walking along, minding their own business, but maybe not being where they should be at the time, even though I can't even see that. If you can't walk down a public sidewalk, when can you walk? And where can you walk? And so, to me, it's another example of the American justice system being skewed, and most people think it's skewed toward the innocent. The innocent, by that I mean you're innocent of proven guilty, and most people resent that to a certain extent, which I don't quite understand. But the fact is that that's the way the system should be. And as far as the outcome of this, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, if you stop and think about the facts, here's a man armed, pulls over somebody, or walks up behind him, actually. What did he say? What the hell are you doing here? Or, hi, what's happening? Well, I mean, how did he greet the guy? It sounds to me like Zimmerman was looking for trouble from the beginning. And
no doubt.
To me that
no doubt.
Seemed to me that the jury was way off base this time, at least letting him get away scot-free. And when you have armed citizens guarding and playing police, playing like cops, you're going to be asking for things like this. As far as I'm concerned, the neighborhood watch should be, for this. So I'm not quite sure what the jury said there on this. I want to thank you for inviting me on the radio with you, Boston. Red, and we're talking about this tonight.
Yeah,
we came in, and I wish I had some more answers for you.
Just read you really briefly here, Jerry, what the prosecutor said. That was Angela Corey. Corey. Nonetheless, she said, we promised that we would seek justice for Trayvon Martin, which they did. She said, paraphrasing the prosecutor, John Guy, in his closing remarks, to the living we owe respect, to the dead we owe the truth. We have shown respect to the living, and we believe we have brought out the truth on behalf of Trayvon Martin. And so that was basically what the prosecution out of Jacksonville, Florida, was able to do from the very beginning of this trial. The Trayvon Martin did not have a favorable jury here. There were 5 white females, 1 Latino on this jury. There were no African Americans on the jury in this town. And this town had been a town historically racially divided, still is. And not only that, they went through a number of police chiefs. Now they have an African American police chief. They have an African American city manager. It's about a city of about 50,000. And normally these juries to the circuit courts normally have 90+% of the people on them are not African Americans. So if even 3% were able to get on there, would be there, but they were all challenged and all sent away. So this was not an unexpected situation tonight. How it will go on in the long run, it's very, very difficult to say. We so far haven't got any reaction out of Stanford, Florida. There were about 100 or so people outside the courthouse. But people aren't fools. The law enforcement was present there in great numbers, no doubt about that. But this verdict could take a while to settle into people and across Florida. So we'll keep the people informed as we put this broadcast. Now, this broadcast will be on Boston Red on the World, it's an international broadcast. It will be on there a little later here. We're running at about 20 minutes to 11 Eastern Standard Time, but about 20 minutes to 10 your standard time, and we'll have a special program tomorrow on Boston Red, which we'll also get on your channel. So we'll get all of this done. We're live on live stream. So I'll give you the last few minutes here.
Yeah, I guess, as you know, I'm recuperating from cancer and kind of out of action, but I have been following some of these things. And as I say, the jury, I don't know, maybe the defense use all the preemptory challenges. It seems to me
they did use the preemptories, but you can challenge any juror for cause, and the judge was very liberal in this. And one other point, they had a more favorable judge for this trial, but she got disqualified because she knew someone in one of the law firms there. There were no African Americans as far as on the legal end of this, either in the prosecution, obviously not in the defense. But the fellow that ran this said he would do a social media type case named Mark O'Mara. He was the one involved in the Anthony. If you recall this, there's a woman named Anthony that was accused of killing her little baby, a daughter, or what it was. I did not follow the case that closely, but nonetheless he was involved in that. And this other fellow, Wes, he's been a defense attorney a very long time. He was involved in the William Kennedy Smith rape case long time ago. That was when Senator Kennedy was still alive. Of course, he was acquitted there in Florida. So they had some defense people that were there. The prosecution from the very beginning here was going to have a hard time in that town proving any type of ill will or malice, although it's apparent to anyone in America that's not deaf, dumb, blind, and not been around. So this case, you and I went through the O.J. case, and of course you supported O.J. Just give me a couple of, sentences or whatever comparing these. It's really not a comparison in the sense that this case had very little evidence in it in terms of there were only two people basically available that night, and one of them, of course, obviously was dead. The DNA, the jury did not even take into consideration because none of Trayvon's DNA was on Zimmerman and none of Zimmerman's DNA was on Trayvon. So basically what they did, there was one lady on this jury that said, basically this whole thing was, as far as she was concerned, the trial and the whole Trayvon Martin justice thing was just foolishness. So they put her on the jury, and she should have been challenged for cause to start with. But a lot of things happened there. Back to the judges. One disqualified, and another judge came in, and that was the judge that caught old Zimmerman and his wife both lying about the defense fund. He disappeared from it. So this woman there now, Nelson, was the third circuit judge to take over that case. So from the very beginning, most of the local pundits, national pundits were trying to say that, well, Zimmerman was justified on Florida law. But it became very clear from the jury selection, the day that the jury was in panel, that it would be very, very difficult to get anything out of this jury. And they all had to unanimously do it. Evidently somebody was thinking about manslaughter. But when you have one person there against five wanting to go home, living in the community, having to face the local characters with the hoods on, people cave in, people go home. So this case, will go on. But back to O.J. O.J. was another case that had obviously much more publicity. You and I talked a little bit in the pre about CNN and some of these monopoly stations using this to get their ratings. Evidently the new regime at CNN has decided that they'll forget about any coverage, international coverage. They're just going to cover the sensational stuff, and that's what they did on this one. They didn't get obviously the people that O.J. got, but O.J. was one of these things, was in literally for the most part, and that's the way the media did it, in black and white. They even painted O.J. darker than he was. So this game was played 20-something years ago, so they basically replayed the record, but in a small town. So it's more of Emmett Till, and of course you remember Emmett Till. It's more aligned with what happened to him, brutally murdered there, and they found some people that supposedly did it, couldn't get him convicted of anything. Years later, they found some of those people, but basically here, and I don't know if the Justice Department has an appetite to charge him with violation of civil rights. Maybe hard to do, and maybe there's not an appetite on the part of Obama, and we'll wait and see on that. There's been some civil litigation going on. The Apartment Owners Association has already settled with Trayvon Martin's family. There'll probably be other litigation against the city of Sanford, Florida, etc., etc. So anyway, I'll give you the final words here, and we'll sign off of our live stream. And we are streaming live here, and we'll go back to Blog Talk and various other places where we'll have this, and also be available on your site, jerrypippin.com. As soon as we get it up there, we'll have to talk to Jane.
And my closing thoughts is this. It's hard to justify shooting an unarmed man, in my opinion. And that even though the jury evidently bought into it, to me, I don't think it's morally right. And people, it's just kind of a commentary on where we are. And you're exactly right about bringing up race and things like that. But I'm convinced that another thing that's eating away at society is fear, or we wouldn't have these neighborhood watch programs to begin with. And
well, you're absolutely right about that. You are right about that. Neighborhood snitch programs, I call them. But usually people hide in their houses or in their cars, remain anonymous, and they call in. The police come and do their job. They find someone. Now, it may not be the person that supposedly perpetrated the crime, but they have. And you remember, even in the testimony here, this judge let him get away with that. They called Trayvon Martin the suspect. Well, Trayvon Martin was never charged anything. They were never able to say that he was planning on any burglaries. I know there was a lie out in the media claim, well, there was some burglary tools. There were no burglary tools around. So this thing just played out exactly like they wanted it to be, and you're right about this. There's been a lot of things going wrong around here for a long time. We see that in these WikiLeaks. Bradley Manning, who is from your state, that he put some of the goods out there. And now Mr. Snowden has put a lot of the goods out there, connecting up these corporations, spy agencies, and all kinds of government agencies together in this whole situation. So without the corporation, I would say, of CNN, Fox, various other newspapers across the land, this case would not be what it was, and this verdict would have not been there. But you could see from the very beginning, the people in that Seminole County were convinced that they were going to let this man free to make a statement. And the statement was, we can shoot you and get away with impunity. And that was the whole statement here. And fortunately, people did fight back, or they never would have got where they were.
It just seems to me that we strayed far away from values, human values, life itself, and people look the other way for convenience. For some reason, I'm not sure. But I guess that's the way we better leave it.
Well, we'll leave it there, and it's sort of like a situation. If you saw me walking through your house, you could, in Florida and in there too, you could kill me dead. But if I saw you and shot you, I'd be on the way to be electrified or chemical-fied or whatever the situation would be. And in Sanford, Florida, it wouldn't really matter. You could just shoot somebody in the back there. And under the Florida law, all you have to be is fear for your life. I mean, the person could be 5'2", and if you told the police you feared for your life, that would be it. Generally speaking, under those stand your ground laws, and that's why they put it in there. It was a political thing. It's the same thing. We talked about it a number of times. The abortion legislation down in Texas that Paula was excited about. They're taking away women's rights there. They're playing that deal. And this whole deal about concealed weapons, and I think in your state, actually, you can carry the firearm outside, your belt and walk around with it proudly and take the law into your own hands. As long as you don't go into the bank and threaten the banker, then you will have some problems right there. Nonetheless, Jerry, nice talking to you. We bid you a good night, and we'll have all this straight, and we'll get all this stuff to your people. Okay,
it'll be interesting to see the reaction.
Hopefully we'll have some of that by the time we finish the blog talk part of this. Hopefully, yes, we will have some of that coming in. Of course,
tends to play out over more than one day.
Oh, sure. We'll see. On the Sunday talk shows, there'll be some.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, very good, Jerry. Good night. Good night to you. Okay. I was talking to Jerry Pippin, veteran broadcaster, recuperating from a cancer operation. I was glad he could do this out in the very red state of Oklahoma. In fact, he lives about 4 blocks from Tom Coburn, the very right-wing senator known as Dr. No. And as Walter Cronkite would say, that's the way it was today. Not unexpected, a sad day for the criminal justice system in the U.S. And as a poet laureate of Newark, New Jersey, one L.A. Bill Graham would say, peace out, and we'll continue to do interviews and get this updated. We'll have a special Sunday program on Boston Red, and tonight we'll be on Boston Red on the World, our international broadcast. We'll get that ready. We need to talk to some more people. Goodbye from now from us on live stream and other outlets.